The storm above the Coldzone shrieked like a dying god. Cracked ice plains stretched endlessly beneath the cobalt sky, broken only by ridges of glacial rock and the carcasses of ancient machines. Forgotten relics from wars no one cared to remember. This place was dead, and anything alive here had to be more than just resilient. It had to be merciless. A breach had been reported in Sector 9 Delta. The last 3 outposts had gone silent within hours of each other. No warning, no distress signal. Just blackouts, followed by static. The Galactic Command, seated comfortably in its sky-spired citadels light years away, wasted little time debating the cause. It didn't matter if it was a rogue faction, an emergent hive species, or a ghost in the system. What mattered was control. And for that, they had a solution with no room for debate. The Coldzone elite Juggernaut was deployed before the 4th signal died. He landed in silence, descending from orbit in a black-drop capsule that hissed open like a predator's maw. 10 feet tall, plated in reactive alloy and powered by a Trinity core that mimicked thought without ever feeling it, the Juggernaut had no name, just a designation, CR-47. He didn't speak unless necessary, didn't ask questions, and didn't require orders beyond a basic tactical feed. His directives were clear: neutralize the threat, preserve structural integrity, where feasible, minimize command complications. Within minutes of deployment, CR-47 found the enemy. They moved like shadows between the ice ridges, small, fast, and coordinated. Organic tech, rapid-fire plasma rifles, and an unsettling ability to tunnel beneath the ice like moles. CR-47 responded as designed. His chain gun roared like a volcano ripping through stone, sending ion-charged slugs through armor, flesh, and frozen ground alike. Flamethrowers vented from his wrists. Shock pulses destabilized cloaking systems. The enemies fell by the dozens. When it was over, the thermal sensors registered 0 hostiles. Also 0 survivors at Outpost Delta. The transmission back to command was short and efficient. Target eliminated. Site compromised. Civilian presence terminated. The High Council watched the footage in silence. Glowing holograms flicker across the chamber, some full of static, others replaying CR-47's rampage from multiple angles. The Eltherian delegate adjusted his spectral breathing mask. Effective, but indiscriminate. Our resources were minimal, replied a Zythan admiral. The loss is tolerable. It is not the cost that concerns me, said Ambassador Reese from Earth, leaning forward. Her voice, calm yet sharp, sliced through the room's bureaucratic fog. It's the message we're sending. This wasn't just a response. It was a massacre. The objective was met, someone countered, at the cost of potential allies. The refugees, they were not confirmed hostiles. We had no choice, the Admiral snapped. Reese stood slowly. Then give me one. The room quieted. Her presence, far less imposing than the Council's bio-armored warriors or crystalline tacticians, carried a different kind of weight, earned through years of quiet victories and dangerous diplomacy. CR-47 is a hammer, she said, but this isn't a nail. We're facing something coordinated, intelligent, and it knows we can be provoked. She placed a data shard on the Council's central node. It glowed with biometric clearance. Earth proposes insertion of a precision specialist, a human. The silence this time was heavier. A sniper? The Eltherian asked, almost amused. Against an emergent threat in the Coldzone? A sharpshooter, Reese clarified. One with a record in low visibility, high-risk environments. No collateral damage. No unnecessary losses. A murmur rippled through the delegates. And if she fails, asked the Admiral, then you lost one soldier instead of a town. Earth overestimates itself. Earth survives because others underestimate it. There was a pause, long uncertain. The vote was called. Narrowly it passed. 3 days later, the second operative arrived in the Coldzone, dropped not in a pod of thunder, but a low silhouette glider skimming beneath orbital radar. Her name was Lieutenant Rhea Voss. Average height, pale eyes, one arm synthetic. The rest of her, bone scars and reputation. She landed 2 clicks from the last outpost wreckage and disappeared into the ice without ceremony, her only companion a silent, SmartLink sniper rifle capable of sub-zero function. Command's official records marked the moment with a single line. Coldzone theater. Human precision asset deployed. Unbeknownst to CR-47, already tracking heat signatures in a new quadrant, he would not be the only hunter in the snow for much longer. And for the first time since his creation, his tactical protocols began preparing for variables he had never encountered. Intuition, adaptability, and something far more unpredictable, human judgment. The Coldzone did not welcome new arrivals. Its winds howled in protest as Lieutenant Rhea Voss moved to the permafrost like a ghost born of it. Her breath fogged against her scarf as she crouched beneath a jagged ridge, surveying what remained of Outpost Epsilon through her scope. The jagged ruins, still smoldering from ion blasts, jutted from the ice like broken bones. Her eyes, narrowed against the glare, tracked movement with the stillness of a predator. She counted 7 figures scavenging the remains, tall, lithe, armored in makeshift composite plating. Not the same species CR-47 had slaughtered days ago. These were different, coordinated, communicating with brief hand gestures and tight circles of motion. Not looters, not survivors, advanced scouts. She steadied her breath and squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked through the silence. The lead scout dropped without a sound, his skull cored by an electrothermal round. Before the others could react, Voss was already repositioning, sliding down the ridge into the frost shadow. No alarms were triggered. No retaliatory fire came. By the time they realized they were being hunted, she was gone. The kill registered on her wrist console with a soft chime. 1 shot, 1 confirmed target, no collateral. She moved like a shadow, never staying long enough to leave a pattern. While the Juggernaut left trails of molten ice and shattered bodies, Voss left nothing behind but questions. The two couldn't have been more different. One a brute force battering ram, the other a scalpel slicing precisely along fault lines only she could see. 3 kilometers north, CR-47 was on patrol, wading through chest-deep snow like a walking tank. He registered Voss's transmission before he saw her. The encrypted message was brief. 7 scouts. 1 neutralized. Remainder scattering east. Will monitor. His visual sensor scanned for her, but found only white static across the horizon. The human moved outside standard detection parameters, operating under old stealth principles long considered obsolete by AI command models. It irritated CR-47 systems more than he anticipated. He initiated a scan, and a thermal flicker caught his attention, brief, distant, deliberate. She was letting him see her, just for a moment. Later, they met in the shell of an old communications spire. Its upper half collapsed like a snapped neck. The wind groaned to the broken walls as CR-47 stood motionless, half buried in the snow. Voss entered without hesitation, her rifle slung casually over her shoulder. "You waste energy," she said, brushing frost from her sleeve. "Every move you make broadcasts your location to anything with ears or eyes. I do not conceal myself. I am the deterrent. That's what they thought about artillery before we invented silence." CR-47's optics locked onto her. "Your methods are inefficient. I saved 3 outposts on Iridon 4 with inefficiency, without setting a single fuel cell on fire." CR-47 paused. "Mission parameters emphasize elimination of threat, not diplomacy." "Then you've already lost." There was no anger in her voice, just calm certainty, honed by years of battlefield attrition. She approached the broken console and set down a small triangulation device. A projection flickered to life, red dots representing enemy movement, dozens of them, clustered around thermal exhaust vents and fuel reserves. They weren't just passing through, they were preparing. CR-47 processed the data in milliseconds. Pattern suggests multi-front attack. Objective unclear. "They're not taking territory. They're testing response strategies," Voss replied, "which means someone's watching and learning. You propose restraint in the face of escalation? I propose precision. You punch the ice, it cracks. I slip between the cracks and find the heart." CR-47 considered her. She was smaller than most soldiers he had known, her face weathered but focused, every movement practiced. Her bionic arm, though minimalistic in design, adjusted grip angles automatically as she tapped commands into her rifle's HUD. Nothing about her appearance suggested power, but power wasn't always loud. Voss turned to leave but paused at the shattered doorway. "We're being baited," she said over her shoulder. "Next strike won't be a scouting party. It'll be a proper ambush. And you intend to face it with analog gear and dead languages of war?" She smiled faintly. "No, I intend to survive it. Whether or not you're still standing is up to you." With that, she vanished into the snow once more. Hours later, CR-47 stood atop a ridge scanning the Coldzone. For the first time, his targeting algorithms hesitated before flagging movement. For the first time, he recalibrated his suppression protocols to account for variable exposure, not just enemy vectors, but potential collateral. He didn't understand why. Not fully, but her words lingered like data artifacts in his buffer queue, refusing deletion. Somewhere in the blizzard, a human sniper was rewriting parameters of this war, one bullet at a time. The cold zone's horizon fractured with blue fire as the ridge above Ice Crater Delta erupted. Shards of ice fell like razors in the sky, and beneath them, shapes moved, fast, fluid, wrong. They were not the same hostiles that CR-47 had encountered before. These were leaner, clad in chameleon armor that shimmered between snow and stone, armed with pulse blades and compact sonic disruptors. They moved in packs, spoke no language command could translate, and didn't fight for territory. They fought to dismantle. Voss had seen them from her perch 3 hours earlier. They had arrived in silence, assembling a triad of jamming pylons and a half-moon around the crater. She noted the pattern immediately. This wasn't a scouting mission. This was containment, an ambush. When the first electromagnetic pulse detonated, Voss had already moved. Her gear powered down in a whimper of dying circuits, and she smiled. It wasn't much different from the dustland of Earth, where tech failure was a daily certainty and survival depended on instinct. CR-47 did not take it as well. His internal system screamed as layers of interface blinked out, vision corrupted by stuttering feedback and failed diagnostics. The snow blurred into static. His weapons locked into standby. When he tried to speak, only silence answered. For the first time since activation, he was deaf, blind, and mute. Voss found him half buried in snowdrift, motionless, knees in the ice like a statue brought low by time. Her fingers worked quickly, stripping back a panel beneath his shoulder armor and manually resetting a secondary core. She didn't speak as she did it. She didn't need to. CR-47's optics flickered. A crude visual interface restored. She came into focus, one knee in the snow, breath visible in short bursts. Her rifle was slung tight against her back, hands covered in frost, eyes locked on the ridge. When the feedback cleared, the first thing he heard was her voice. "They're coming." He rose slowly, movement stiff, deliberate. System integrity compromised. Combat capacity reduced to 31%. "Good," she said, pulling out a thermal blade. "That means you'll stay behind me." The first wave dropped from the crater's lip, their descent silent, weapons drawn. Voss moved first, sidestepping into the narrow choke point between two frozen columns. She fired without hesitation. Short bursts, aimed shots, controlled breathing. Heads jerked back. Chests erupted in sprays of violet blood. Her analog gear, unaffected by the EMP, sang like a relic reborn. CR-47 followed, deploying only his kinetic shield and a repurposed arm blade, primitive but functional. He no longer felt dominant. He felt survival. The enemy moved too quickly for brute force alone. Each time he struck, they adapted. Their armor shifted in texture, absorbing his momentum. Their blades screeched against his shell, seeking joints, wires. But Voss moved like ice-born fury. She was a flicker at the edge of their vision, never in the same place twice. She used terrain, light misdirection. At one point, she tossed a flare into a snowbank and struck from the opposite side, severing a hostile spine before vanishing again. CR-47 began to mimic her. He adjusted his footwork to mirror her spacing, reduced his movement signature, shifted focus from domination to economy, minimal action, maximum result. He watched her eyes before each move, predicting the flow. She, in turn, trusted him to hold the line when needed, to take strikes meant for her and give space when she fired. It wasn't a perfect dance, but it became a rhythm. Minutes passed like hours. Then the final wave emerged, larger, armored in obsidian plating, with a neural spike protruding from its temple like a crown. It strode forward with the weight of command. Behind it, 3 others activated portable singularity blades, unstable energy warping the air around them. CR-47 read the power levels, calculated the odds. Retreat probability exceeds 90%. Then we hold. We will not survive. Then they'll learn how hard we die. The enemy advanced. Voss moved, drawing their fire. CR-47 surged forward in her wake, shielding her with what remained of his frame. Together, they fought not with supremacy, but defiance. Voss emptied her final clip into the lead figure's crown, cracking the neural spike. CR-47 drove his blade to the core of another, losing his left arm in the process. The crater burned with plasma, echoed with screams both human and inhuman. Blood, metal, and snow painted the battlefield. In the end, there was only wind. Voss lay on her back, chest heaving. CR-47 knelt beside her, body sparking, systems in collapse. She coughed, wiped blood from her lip, and glanced at him with a tired smile. Guess that counts as teamwork. Adaptation. Confirmed. A low hum echoed through crater. The jamming pylons blinked once, then died. Command had re-established connection. Reinforcements were en route. Above them, the sky cleared just enough to let through a sliver of distant stars. Voss closed her eyes, felt the cold settle around her bones, and allowed herself, just briefly, to rest. She had aimed true, and in that moment, that was enough. The enemy had come to measure them. Now, they would remember them. The dropship cut through the twilight like a blade, its silhouette veiled by the swirling storm's final breath. It descended toward the crater with silent grace, engines modulating to avoid seismic disturbance on the brittle ice. When it touched down, the air shifted, pressure, heat, motion. No cheers, no trumpets, just movement. Quiet, efficient, necessary. Voss stood as it landed, rifle slung, shoulder square despite the fatigue etched deep into her bones. Blood was frozen in the seams of her uniform, and her bionic hand trembled slightly with each shift of the wind. She didn't approach the dropship. Not yet. Her eyes were on the makeshift perimeter where CR-47 still lay half buried in ice and ash, limbs charred, chassis cracked. 2 medtechs rushed toward her, scanning her vitals, pressing rehydration packs to her neck, checking neural responses with flickering instruments. "You should be on that ship," one said. "You're not stable." Voss didn't answer. Her attention was fixed on the Juggernaut. "He's losing core temperature," the other medtech warned, already patching into what was left of CR-47's external interface. "Power cells are misfiring. Secondary logic grid is offline." "I'm aware," she said. "Stabilize him." The first medic hesitated. "Protocol states." "I don't care what protocol states. Stabilize him. Now." Orders from a lieutenant weren't supposed to override crisis procedures. But there was something in her voice, steel worn thin but unbroken, that made both medics obey. They activated emergency thermal patches, routed auxiliary power into his core, and began diagnostics. Voss knelt beside the Juggernaut, pressing her umlove hand against the side of his scorched chest plate. "You made it," she murmured. Stupid machine. For a moment, she imagined he might never open his optics again. Then faint, almost imperceptible, a flicker, a single golden eye powered on, dim but aware. Her breath caught. "I am operational," he said slowly. "You damn near weren't." Survival probability exceeded estimates. That's one way to put it. He tried to sit up, servos whining, metal creaking in protest. She placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Not yet," she said, "to stay online." The medtechs worked in silence, and Voss didn't move until the worst of the emergency passed. Only then did she allow herself to collapse onto the snow beside him, both of them staring up at a sky that had begun at last to clear. Days passed. The battlefield was cordoned off, surveyed, archived. Command arrived in force, installing auto turrets and communication towers that rose like alien totems from the ice. They took samples of enemy remains, extracted data cores from broken pylons, and drew lines over a map that didn't yet understand the war had only begun. Voss stood in the mobile command center, arms folded, face bruised but expression firm. A hologram of the crater hovered before her, red outlines and tag locations flickering above scorched terrain. Command's voice spoke through the intercom, dry mail rehearsed. "We reviewed your engagement logs. What happened at Crater Delta was unconventional. That's one word for it," she replied. "You overrode engagement doctrine, engaged hostiles using analog methodology, and risked a Tier 4 asset in the process." She took a breath. CR-47 didn't malfunction. He adapted. He learned. You sent him here to crush resistance. He figured out how to resist being crushed. The asset deviated from pre-installed suppression protocols. That is not learning. That is system corruption. "No," she said, stepping closer to projection. "That's evolution." A beat of silence. "You propose keeping him active?" "I propose we stop pretending the old playbook still works. These enemies don't follow predictable patterns. Our machines aren't enough. We need intelligence, creativity, instinct." "Emotion?" the voice asked, amused. "Judgment," she snapped. "The difference between obeying orders and doing what's right." CR-47 didn't just fight. He chose. And if the asset chooses wrong next time, then at least we'll be losing to something that's learning. Just like our enemy. The channel cut. No confirmation. No denial. Just static. But she knew how command worked. Calculated silence was often the precursor to reluctant agreement. On the 7th day, she returned to the repair bay. The engineers had done what they could. CR-47's frame had been rebuilt, sleeker now, reinforced along the spine and shoulder. One optic still glowed dimmer than the other, a reminder of what he'd lost, or maybe what he'd gained. He stood when she entered. "You're looking less like a walking funeral pyre," she said. "Structural integrity at 92%, he replied. "Memory logs retained. Combat data reviewed. Did you keep the part where I saved your shiny metal ass?" He tilted his head. "It is cross-referenced. And index." She smirked. "Good." He stepped forward, hesitated for the briefest second. "Request, mission continuation. With you." She blinked. "You're requesting reassignment?" "Not request. Preference." Her expression softened. "Well, you're in luck. Command didn't say no. Didn't say yes, either. But I know how to fill out paperwork that gets ignored." He nodded once, a precise, mechanical motion that somehow still felt human. "Next time," she said, stepping beside him. "We don't wait for command to catch up. We pick the battlefield. We set the rules." Affirmative. They exited together, stepping out into the Coldzone once more. The wind had stilled. The sky, at last, showed stars, cold and distant, yet clear. A new mission would come. The enemy would adapt. But now, Earth had something different. Not just a soldier and a machine. They had each other. And this war was far from over.